Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Well, I know I said I was going to get out and do a char cloth video and get some use with the SE Gibson axe and the SE5 and the saw and all that stuff, but I am still waiting for the water to disappear out of my backyard. We got altogether almost 4 inches of rain since the last video, and there at one point I had a small river running through my backyard. We got over 3 inches of rain just in under 24 hours. So we had some flooding issues here and there and had a lot of pooled standing water. Hopefully, if we don't get any more rain in the next 2 or 3 days, my yard will finally dry out enough that I can get out in it. But that being said, I'm still going to do that. I'm just waiting on the weather to cooperate. Today, I want to talk about another trap. And this is one that my father actually taught me how to make back when I was in the early teens. He and I had used this to catch everything from squirrels to rabbits to groundhogs. Even had one very unfortunate incident where I got a skunk, which that wasn't pleasant. But the trap I want to talk about is a figure 4 deadfall. I believe everybody knows the basis of a figure 4 deadfall, how it got its name and so forth. And we'll go over the pieces and setting everything up here in just a second. Try to do some research and find out just when the figure 4 deadfall come about. And I've run across everything from within the last couple of 100 years to one guy said it's probably been around for 160,000 years. Don't know about that, but it's been around a long time. The thing that's versatile about this is you can make them all different sizes. I guess if you've got the patience, you can make one small enough that you could catch chipmunks with it. And I do know for a fact that they've made them large enough to catch bear with them. So I guess it just, whatever you're after, you have to figure out the size you're going to make it. What I'm going to use is one I made several years ago when I was trying to teach a couple of young kids how to make figure 4s. And I had some store-bought wood that just worked out better because it was already semi-square and was able to do it quickly just to show them. One thing I will talk about when I get into this is I've seen the lever and the trigger stick done 2 different ways, and I'll talk about that here in a second. First of all, let me get turned around here and we'll go over the parts and pieces. A figure 4 deadfall has 3 pieces to it. You have your support stick, which is your load bearing stick. You have your lever, which holds the weight and is actually the mechanism that makes everything move. And then you have your trigger stick. The trigger stick is actually what holds everything together, and you put your bait on the end of it. And that when they start messing with the bait, that's what sets it off. Now, on the support stick and the trigger stick, one thing that I have found from making these traps is when you set them up, your support stick, you want it angled on one side. And when you set your lever on that, you want the angled side in toward your weight that you're going to have on this, be it a rock or whatever. And the reason I found that works best is when you've got this thing set up and it's tripped, that thing has a tendency to try and kick your support stick out from underneath of it when it's done that way. When it's done this way, it goes together better, but I've found that sometimes it doesn't want to kick out like it does when it's turned the other way. And I've actually had them, when I've set them this way, I've actually had them kick and my support stick actually be underneath the edge of the rock. So I found that this way here has a tendency to kick that support stick out better. Once you get that done, you just cut you a number 7 notch, stop cut, whatever you want to call it, in there to set on top of that. And then when you do your trigger, the way I was taught to do them is you notch a 90-degree back here. That way that you've got two 90s buttoned together back here in the back. I don't know if you can see how that's lined up back here at the back. And then you've got a 90 here. It's just a square cut that's hooked on the front of that stick that's holding everything together. Now that being said, I have seen this back side cut at an angle similar to this, and then your trigger stick, instead of having the two square notches, actually have a notch like that, and your lever actually catch in that notch at the end of your trigger stick. I haven't seen where one's any more sensitive than the other, or as far as being maybe it might be a little bit easier, but that's it. But once you get your set up, there's your figure 4. Everybody sees why now. And you get your weight on here, or your bait on the front. When this is kicked, that's kind of what happens. Now, I have used this with rocks and logs to kill squirrels, rabbits, and groundhogs. And like I said, the unfortunate time when I got the skunk in it. I've also used these for live trap triggers. My father and I actually had some rabbits that were getting into our garden, and we built a wooden box, set it on top of another piece of wood, and set this up, and then when they tripped it, that wood box come down on top of them and actually caught them inside the box. And then we had a hole in the box with a door on it, and we just reached to grab the rabbits, load them up, take them down the road, and throw them out in the field. Instead of killing them, we just relocate them more or less. But take some finesse and some practice to get your notches right. I've probably made as many of these that didn't work as I have that had worked. But once you get it figured out, it's a piece of cake. You can make this with round sticks. All you have to do is just square off and flatten off where all of your notches are at. And other than that, that works just as good. But like I said, I had this laying around the house and had made this, trying to teach some young kids how to make figure 4 traps. Well, I don't have any way of setting this up to show you exactly how it works here in the house, but I believe you can kind of get the idea of how it works. One thing that I was told when you do this, especially if you're doing it as a kill trap, is whatever your weight is that you're using needs to weigh, if at all possible, at least 3 times what you're trying to kill. So if you're trying to kill a 4-pound rabbit, it probably needs to weigh at least 10 to 12 pounds or more just to make sure you get a good clean kill when it goes off. Groundhogs, it would even have to be even heavier than that. But hope you found this interesting. Like I said, if things work out good and I get the yard dried up in the next couple of days, I may get out and do a video and actually set this up and set it off so you can actually see it work. Also, if things dry out, I'll get out and I'll do that char cloth video. I'm just, like I said, waiting on the waters to recede. I was able to get my ferro rod handle finished. I got it done, a little bit of stain put on it and some polyurethane, so we got that taken care of. I know I mentioned that in one of the other videos, but that's all I've got for now. I'll get something else up here as soon as I can.